Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We have some echo, so maybe we should try and resolve that before I tell you that we are in the finals. It's very exciting. I disappeared for both the quarters and the semis, but I'm back. I'm very excited. We are just getting ready for our two players. I believe we watched, correct me if I'm wrong, Zvi, I believe we watched Ben Weitz win his semis.
Yes.
Over Corey, I think. Oh, Kobe. My bad. And then background in the off camera, we did have Jarvis win over. Oh, I don't know who his opponent was. Oh, okay. Over Jack. So that was sweet. So we actually have a Jarvis Ben finals, which, if you don't know, is actually pretty sweet, at least from my opinion. I happen to know these two players tested. I'll add some quotations because, they played a couple games on cockatrice. But they did brew together, and they came up with like 72 out of the 75. And so it's pretty exciting that they are meeting in the finals of this tournament, that they kind of hung out and got ready for together. And I think that's a pretty cool story. What do you think, Zvi? What are the deck lists looking like?
Yeah, so it's always amazing when you have only a handful of copies and then they all rush to the top. It indicates you did something very right. So, looking at it, the question is like, what made these lists better, right, than the other lists? And so the big tension that I saw when I looked at Sultai lists was sort of recoil versus mana drain. But you basically couldn't play both and still have the skull clamps work. And so they chose to play the more active recoil style over the mana drain style. And I thought mana drain was the better idea. They had mana drain on the board. And it looks like I was wrong. Right? The results are in. Eldrazi Sky Spawner has apparently impressed. It has done its job. That's the one card in this list that looks like, I'm not sure. But everything else seems like very obviously great, right? Like you've got Skyrider Elf and Woodland Wanderer are clearly sort of the best way to get some decent power in this format that anybody actually got to play. So these lists clearly do a lot of good things. So I'm excited to see how it plays against itself, right? Like recoil is going to be a very, very powerful card the way these decks are set up, because if you get early development going and you get your engine going ahead of the other person, that's probably the most important thing in the mirror.
Sorry, I was chuckling because you mentioned Sky Spawner. I don't know how well you know Ben Weitz, but Ben Weitz is pretty famous for loving Eldrazi's. In fact, had a pretty big hand in the winning deck list at the Eldrazi Pro Tour. So it's pretty great that in this deck list that he would fit in an Eldrazi Sky Spawner, in my opinion. So pretty on brand for Benjamin for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to have a source of 2/1 toughness creatures, and it plays Magic reasonably well. So I'm certainly not mad at it. It's not where my brain would have gone, but doesn't could easily be right. And these decks seem very good at casting a lot of very good cards pretty fast. Right? I would have known very quickly that I would have wanted to be on Elves of Deep Shadow or Utopia Sprawl into Mind Twist and Skull Clamp. And I would have also thought I wanted to be mana draining, but I think the problem is just the mana is a little bit rough for that, right? If you look at these mana bases, I see 12 blue sources. So Devil Blue, not counting Utopia Sprawl, so 16 if you use Utopia Sprawl. That is pushing it a little bit. It's not necessarily that easy to get that many more.
But yeah, that makes sense. We are getting ready to go to the match. I think we're just getting players set up. One thing that's kind of interesting, I think. So, did you guys go over who you gave all your special awards to?
Yes.
Cool. I know that you gave Jack Best Deck Award, Jack Kiefer.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Jack and Ben and Jarvis did all chat together. I think they didn't end up on similar lists. They came up with the ideas together, but Jack had a little different idea. But Jack kind of told me ahead of time. He's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna play all the best cards," which is why he ended up with Mana Drain in his main deck. Whereas I think these two came up with a slightly, as you said, a slightly different conclusion. They all kind of ended up in the same place, though.
Yeah, I think the problem is just if you don't have Mind Twist, right, and you don't have Sword of Fire and Ice, it's not obvious where the colorless mana is going. Because you're trying to play Woodland Wanderer and Skyrider Elf. So a lot of your spells don't really want to spend colorless mana. They want to spend various colors of mana. So.
Well, the great news is we don't get to theorize about it anymore because luckily we're actually in a tournament where we get to watch Magic. I know, wild stuff. So we're actually going to jump down to Ben. We watched Ben's side of you, I think 3 or 4 times today, but why stop something that's working? So we're going to head over and watch BSW Weitz versus Samwise GG, aka Jarvis. And sorry, did you have any predictions? Did you take a look? Sorry, did you take a look at the deck list? I saw a few differences in sideboarding cards, not really in main decks.
Yeah, I don't think this differences are that important. I think it's very close to even.
And you said the biggest card is going to be the bounce spell. Sorry, I can't remember the name. Recoil.
The biggest thing is, Skull Clamp is obviously huge, but I think that getting a fast start, right, having mana acceleration into good action is going to be the biggest thing. Like getting your Mind Twist off quickly, getting your Recoil off quickly, establishing a strong board presence. So you find Utopia Sprawl, Elves of Deep Shadow. I'd be very scared about keeping a hand with no acceleration, especially on the draw. So
unfortunately, Ben didn't hover too long on that first hand. I believe it was a 1-lander. It didn't look like it was considered good enough for Ben.
Yeah, it was a pretty easy toss, I think.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, we were heading back to 6. The 6 is also, unfortunately, doesn't really match your plan. Your plan says to get ahead. Our hand kind of stops at getting ahead at Sky Spawner.
Well, the good news is we have turn 1 Utopia Sprawl, the ambitious name red, because we already have our main colors. Makes sense. It's either red or white. So the idea is now we are pretty well set up such that if we start drawing action, right? If we draw Skull Clamp, we can draw 4 cards. If we draw Recoil, we can punish him here. We drew Wanderer, so we can go Sky Spawner into Wanderer if we don't get Recoil.
That's going to be pretty cool.
We're in some trouble if Recoil happens here.
Yeah, fair. I don't know. I've seen some games won off Lumbering Falls. Also, one thing that I think is great about Moto in particular is what's happening on the right of our screen, which is a nice little chat between 2 friends playing for some magics. So Ben Weitz says #NeverLucky in his chat, which is always great.
#NeverLucky, #in finals.
Yeah. Love the chats between 2 good friends. For sure. So it looks like Ben not only got to play the Wanderer, but also didn't have to use a Scion to do so. I guess we just had a ton of land, so that was just likely to happen.
Yeah, we already knew that we had the land required to pull this off.
Yeah. Oh, there goes the rest of our lands.
So that was probably why the pause last turn was the decision between Mind Twist for 2 and playing the Elf as a 3/3.
Yeah, fair. We do get to Mind Twist back, which is going to be pretty decent.
I think I would have gone the other way.
Oh, you would have Mind Twist first?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the theory that
you get to go for 4 here. Nice.
Yeah, it's. As I said, like getting a lot of mana out quickly is so huge.
Yeah. So
now we have a 6/6, and they lost most of their hand.
Ben is updating his opponent. Okay, sometimes lucky. So that was not a bad draw. There's not a ton of targets at the moment for that Trigon Predator, but something. It's a 2/3 into a 3/3 flyer, so not always great, but
Yeah, try to
do some. Oh, I think I would have played it. I think there was some combination of plays where we could have attacked for lethal next turn.
I am actually confused as to what's the scenario we're playing it's bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, no speakers in these.
I would love to know why we didn't play it. But hey, it's Magic.
You can bluff, obviously, but I'm not sure why we'd want to.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we'll see.
I certainly would be very happy to have it in play now because it's an extra free, we just swing for lethal if we have it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking. Well, I was thinking of it even with the 3/3 in play. We swing with two power flyers and the 6/6. Like there has to be Wait.
Right, we would have forced it. Yeah, we can force a block.
Yeah, that was interesting. But
yeah, I mean, we win anyway, but it's very confusing to me why we didn't play the Trigon Predators.
Yeah, we do. That was a blistering fast match.
All right.
I told the players to play fast because I have food coming, so maybe that's why.
Horsemanship.
So earlier today, I was super excited because there's Earthquake that's been in a couple players' decks, right? And is it Earthquake? It's the one that doesn't deal damage to horsemanship cards. And so I knew Ben had one in his sideboard, and I was really excited. I was like, haha. So what's coming in here? Bone Splinters and the horsemanship friend, whose name I don't know because I can't read it.
Sultai or something.
Yeah. Something Chi, I think.
Sun Chi, the horsemanship guy.
Yeah, Magic is hard.
I don't have any bad cards. Humble brags are going on. So we're staring at.
Did Kiora come out, or is Kiora in the sideboard?
Kiora's still sitting in the board. He put in Bone Splinters and Horsemanship.
What do you think of the mana drains here?
I have to assume that you just don't want them because like all your cards are active, all their cards are active, and like you're not really bringing in cards you can mana drain to cast. So if you're putting in mana drain here, like I mean, there's no specific cards you absolutely have to stop beyond just Mind Twist. So if you're bringing it in here, it probably implies you want it everywhere. Okay, so he's bringing in Kiora, the 4/4s, and the Old Men of the Sea. So it makes sense. Like the 4/4 is like I kill a Skull Clamp and I have a creature that matters, as opposed to Oxidize, which is just I have the ability to kill a Skull Clamp and sort of Fire and Ice. So prefers to pay more mana for the real thing, sort of. Because like it's worth keeping in mind that a lot of the times you're going to get Mind Twisted, right? And then be moving off the top. So you need power.
Okay. Sorry. So there's a huge big switch, right? Like Skull Clamp, Eldrazi Skyspawn are coming out, and then as you said, that huge change into 4/4s and such. It doesn't look like Ben has fully decided. I will say, I may have distracted Ben because I actually asked why he didn't play the Trigon Predator. His response was recoil. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah. That's a reasonable thing to say. Like, you want to make sure the 6/6 is protected.
Yeah, so you wanted to make sure that you couldn't bounce the Wanderer and then have it discarded, so he could discard something.
Right.
So that makes sense.
You do know that he doesn't have recoil, but he might draw it.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good way, or good answer to the question that I posed.
No, absolutely. I have to think about whether I agree with the play now, right, as opposed to just it's correct.
Yeah, it's actually kind of sweet.
Fascinating. I would not have clicked that Mulligan button that quickly. I was not convinced that was bad.
So that was Utopia Sprawl, Forest, triple Mind Twist. What was the last card? Or two more cards?
I forget, but the thing is, if you draw a land there, right, like
you just go Mind Twist, Mind Twist, Mind Twist.
Resource off the top. Then you get to go Utopia Sprawl, Mind Twist for 2, untap Mind Twist for 3 or 4.
Right.
With a bunch of in play. And you're actually in a very strong position. So the question is, are you sufficiently sad about missing that land when you miss that land drop that you can't keep it? And I think the answer is probably, but I thought it was very non-obvious. All right, so now we have Old Man of the Sea, which we can cast off of Utopia Sprawl.
Love Old Man of the Sea. Excited.
And now we have Bone Splinters to take their creature and suck it to Bone Splinters to kill their other creature. We have sort of Fire and Ice to pump up our Old Man of the Sea. Like, this is sort of the dream, right?
Yeah.
I think what do we lose? We only have to lose one of our old men, right?
I think we have to put an old man back here. I think our hand just...
There can be only one, right?
There can only be one. Oh, we're putting back Bone Splinters. Well, if you look in chat, his opponent did tell him that Bone Splinters is bad. So if you're listening to your opponent, you would just put back a bad card, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's... you have an Old Man of the Sea. If you're keeping your Old Man of the Sea over your Bone Splinters, you shouldn't be playing Bone Splinters.
Yeah, I like that. I'll let him know on that one. Don't worry. I really actually think your play of using Bone Splinters after you took something from Old Man is really interesting. And I wonder if that had reached Ben's calculations at the time. It's interesting.
Yeah,
recoil was good.
Yeah, it's somewhat ambitious, but it's also like you've got a lot of cards that cost 3 and you're going second, right? So bonus winners is how you double spell and how you catch up. And this is, as I said, like this is the danger of you both play Utopia Sprawl and when someone recoils. And now,
oh no! So
I
was told at the very beginning of this stream that recoil hits lands too, and I forgot until this exact moment. That was a brutal play.
Yeah, we have it's a very good pull to get a second Utopia Sprawl, so now that we can cast our spells in the future. But we are now down multiple cards because of this problem, and we lost our turn. And oh my god!
Oh, you hate to see it. You hate to see it.
I mean, you hate to see it when you're playing. You kind of love to see it. You kind of love to see the exact thing that you talked about happen, to some extent. Like we're gonna get in 3, right? Now we're gonna get in 3.
Okay. I guess that's fair.
I mean, it's not concerned. His opponent's on 3 cards. Right?
Oh,
like,
man.
it's taking a lot out of him.
Here comes a Wanderer.
6-6.
So.
It's a 6-6 or a 4-4. We'll see which one it is. We're hoping for a 4-4. Nope, 6-6.
It's a 6-6. I think. Well, we have recoil. If we could put something together, like I don't know, Mind Twist.
The problem is we're gonna have to pass again, right? And then hope that we can draw land and start.
We can play a 2-2.
We can, but it's not going to do anything, right? Like it doesn't fight the things that we care about. I'm not saying we don't do it. I think we do it. It's just not getting us out of our problems.
Right.
Right. So now, like, we're really hoping that like the second 6-6 doesn't come down or a 4-4. Because if either of those happens, it's going to be very, very hard to win this game, and one of them is happening.
Something is happening.
Yeah, it's the most likely candidate was the 4-4.
Oh man.
Right. So now this is over. Like,
that's a right click concede for me. I don't know if Ben is there.
We're going to 10, then we're going to 4, and then the best we can do is draw a card, and then we're behind the 8 ball and we never get out. I don't think I think we're on 0 outs. I
also put us on 0 outs. Even if we recoil, we have to chump, and that just doesn't put us anywhere, which I think you said.
I think we can't beat a blank deck right now, and that's not what's happening. So now we can definitely right-click and see.
Wow, the double recoil on both, like we got so lucky on our side too, right? Like we ripped the second Utopia Sprawl, and then Jarvis was like, nope, not happening.
Keep in mind that if we had gone first, we would have done it to him.
Oh, we were definitely doing it back, yeah. Going back to that opening hand that we snap mulligan, do you think that hand would have been more resilient to a recoil situation?
No, definitely not. It was, again, 2 Utopia Sprawls and 1 land. So we just get recoiled twice.
Yeah, so it still happens regardless.
I mean, this card hurts less because we have a 7-card hand, but we're still dead.
Right.
No, we don't win that game ever on the original hand either, basically.
Sorry, I'm really enjoying watching players smack talk each other while sideboarding. It's just been really fun for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it's always interesting, like, when someone says things like, yeah, but your win was luck and mine was skill, like, sometimes it's hilarious, and sometimes you just want to hit them, right? Like,
yeah, luckily we do know that the relationship between these two players are very close, and it is completely a joke. And
yeah, I mean, like, it's all good. Just, yeah, there are players who mean that seriously, and like, you know.
Yes, that's totally fair. I'm gonna vouch for Ben.
You can make the faces very punchable, even if we know not to do it. But
so I guess really quickly, I just want to quickly think, like, Ben's plan was, go bigger. He got rid of the skull clamps, the sky spawners, brought in the 4/4, brought in the old mans, et cetera, et cetera. What do you think about that plan? Like that game, does that change your mind about sideboarding, or is it like, hey, that's an unfortunate game?
I don't think any sideboarding mattered there. I think that game was all about who was on the play when they both had it.
Okay.
Right? Because like,
none of the
cards that were played on the play were ever coming out, right? Like the good creatures, the man of the man exoration, right? You're never not playing any of those cards. And similarly, none of the cards that were in the sideboard would have saved us.
It looks like Ben agrees with you, right? Like Ben didn't make any changes at all. So
yeah, props to Ben for like, putting pressure on him. It's just, G's hit submit already. That's great.
Oh yeah. I like it. You're making the viewers wait. Well, actually, you're entertaining the viewers, so we're all good over here, Ben. Don't worry.
Yeah, come on. Let's have another 29 seconds. All right, there we go. All right.
Okay. Samwise, what are you up to?
I do kind of have my sort of instinctual list of things that people do on Magic Gathering Arena that like make you the asshole because you made everyone wait for no reason. You know, like the cycling at the end of my turn on the first turn cycle, right? It's like, dude, not that there's no information here. We're not playing for the Pro Tour. Just cycle already. We all know you have it.
The F6 value. You gotta play for the F6 value. I will say I have used sideboarding time to go to the bathroom sometimes. I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes I'm like, I gotta go.
It's absolutely fine. I have no objection to that. It's more of a don't. Yeah.
I have a question for you. So Samwise GG is a pretty recognizable moto name. That's Jarvis, has built a reputation around that name. Do you have a moto name that's kind of well known? Is it just your name, or is it a fancy?
So I do own the account Zvi.
Okay.
You're
a three-letter account owner.
I'm saying I own 2 3-letter accounts actually. I own Zvi, and I reserved another one which is anonymous, which I will not talk about. But
ooh, a secret.
I own another 3-letter name that let's just say identify with in a different way.
Okay.
I choose to be anonymous, but none of those is my default account. So I was in the alpha. I actually worked with the developers a lot on the alpha build of.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
And therefore, my main account is the account that they happen to assign me at random, which is Undertaker.
Oh, okay. And is that the account you play on most of the time?
Yes, that's where the bulk of my cards are. That's the account I play on most of the time. I like the semi-anonymous, where the people who I want to know who I am, and the people who I prefer not know who I am because they're random people just see a random name. Right?
I like it. That's a cool little story. Thanks for sharing. Yes. The match did get going as we were going down memory lane.
This is an interesting point, right? Playing Old Man of the Sea over Woodland Wanderer.
Oh, wait, could we have...
We could... sorry. I thought we had a mana.
Cast... Yeah,
sorry,
we couldn't cast...
It was an elf. Yeah, I'm blind.
I think it is actually an elf in your defense, but it's
not the last... These 2/2 flyers,
So yeah, I will say the game is progressing. Unfortunately, nothing crazy happened unlike last game in game 2.
That was a great draw, right? It gave us an extra color of mana.
So we're definitely stealing the elf here, right? Like with Old Man.
100%.
Okay, sweet. Because that just
the Old Man's not doing anything else. There's no reason to give them mana, right? So we take the elf.
So that would put us at 5 mana, 6 mana next turn. So we actually do get to sword up the Old Man if we wanted to. I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, but we do get to sword up the Old Man and then potentially take something bigger, right? With the Old Man scheme. I don't know if that's what's happening, but it's kind of interesting to think about.
I think our A plan is to sword up the 6, the 5/5.
Yeah, I guess I'm probably fancy play over here, just thinking about all the cool things we can do with Old Man of the Sea. The art of that card is just so cool to me. I don't know why I love it so much.
It's a really fun card.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm I don't know if we've talked about this at all, but I'm a fairly new-ish, I played with Theros, first Theros. So seeing all these old cards in Set Roulette tournaments like this are so fun to me. I never played with Skull Clamp. I never did with Mana Drain. This is just a world that I haven't explored, and I'm loving it. It's really good.
I mean, Master Edition 3 is a very bold choice to put in the roulette, right?
It may or may not have been not known. It's okay. We're going to move on from now.
We went with it. We did not re-roll.
It's okay. I think it's good not to re-roll. I'm happy
I fully endorse not re-rolling.
Yeah. And we actually had spoken in chat about whether or not Skull Clamp should have been banned, and I'm happy with it being legal. I think it's fun for one tournament, have a great time, do some busted things, and then ship it, do something else next time.
Right. So given we're facing a 3/3 flyer, this is actually a great play, right? Because now we have to get through. Right. And then we get the card, we get an extra land play. And now it's going to be really, really hard to catch up. Because, as we were describing, right, if you get ahead in this type of matchup, it's very, very hard to catch back up.
Yes, that I've definitely noticed. Sorry, I really distracted us from what happened there. So why did we not go on the Wanderer?
Because we had a 2/2 flyer, we could turn into a 4/4 to get past their 3/3 flyer, which was more higher impact, right? If they had played a woodland themselves, we would have put our sword on the woodland. Okay. But because they played a flyer, we wanted to have our flyer be powerful enough to attack. So we did that instead.
We attacked with the woodland and the flyer.
Right. That's why he's at 6.
I thought we didn't. I thought we only attacked with just the flyer, and I was a little confused.
No. 6/6 smashed.
Hulk was it looks like Ben is actually pausing on the old man trigger.
Right. To
decide
where we want to put the sword. So if we can untap, play a new sword, put the new sword on the old man, take the 4/4 and smash. And that looks like the right play.
Yeah, I guess recoil is something to think about.
Or at least looks like a play. Yeah, recoil is good somewhere no matter what, right? So this is... So instead we're going to put the sword somewhere else.
I assume on the Wanderer? Or maybe we'll put on the Elves.
It provides protection from blue.
Oh, right. So they can do it in response.
Yeah, if they don't... So, like, one option is to put this on... We put it on the Elf, actually, right?
Oh, wait. Hold on. If we put it on the Wanderer and then recoil... Oh, no, recoil will just happen in response. Never mind. Right. We have a second Eclipse.
So, as I was suggesting, we put this on the Elf, and now we have a 6-power attacker with protection from all blockers into his person on 6 life.
Right. That does seem like the more heads-up play instead of whatever fancy stuff I was coming up with over here.
If it's on the Wanderer, then we can be punished by recoil is the problem, right?
No, and it looks like Ben actually paused right as we were talking about that. He was heading towards the Wanderer, changed his mind, gets the match win, gets the crown.
Yeah. We also have enough time, though, to play Bayou and then re-equip.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to stumble through, and then your play was just much better. Like, let's just attack our opponent for 6.
I went through the exact same process as Ben, right? I went from, let's put it on the Wanderer, that seems powerful, to, wait a minute, we don't need to put it on the Wanderer. We can just do this instead.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah, so those are some very quick games.
Sorry, I muted myself for some weird reason. Anyway, welcome on back, everybody. I will say those were amazingly fast games between two pretty decent players. They're all right. You didn't quite think so, but I believe one of the better decks coming into this tournament. So that was pretty cool to see them, see both of them, but more importantly, see Ben close out the tournament.
I didn't think those decks were bad by any means. It was more like I wasn't going to choose more than one bug Skull Clamp deck, right? And the third person in their group with them was the person I chose for best deck.
Yeah.
I thought the other variation was the better choice before I saw the tournament play out. Having seen the decks play out against each other, I think I was wrong. I think that Kiefer had the third best deck at the tournament, and these were the first two.
So I have a quick question for you. We are going to wrap up and say kind of give a little summary, but I just wanted to quickly ask you. You have scoured both this tournament and our last Set Roulette tournament about a month ago, and you've really looked at all the deck lists. Like that was kind of your role in this tournament. Do you feel like there was diversity in both tournaments, or did kind of the sets in this one lead to like more of a solved format? Like, what are your feelings on the two?
You always have this rose-colored glasses thing where we remember the good times and the good variety that we had 3 weeks ago and not the bad parts of it.
Right.
And similarly, we're complaining about the thing we're complaining about now and not remembering how great the good stuff is, right? We had a bunch of great games. We had a bunch of very interesting matchups, a bunch of good dynamics both times. Both times we had some problematic stuff, right? We had Skull Clamp, Mind Twist, Mana Drain here. Last time we had the zombie deck. Right. The zombie deck was everywhere. And then Blood Baron was everywhere because of the zombie deck. And then almost everyone was playing one side of that or the other.
I think that's really fair. I think for me as a not ingrained deck builder, I saw Mana Drain, Mind Twist, Skull Clamp a lot sooner than I would have seen that zombie deck. So that was my coloring a little bit, thinking like, this seemed easier to solve. But that being said, we actually saw some really sweet Skull Clamp decks. Like, we didn't just see this bug deck. though it did eventually win, and that's cool. We saw some like really sweet ones with like Arcbound Ravager and different. There was a combo deck as well. Like there was some cool stuff going on in this format. So I enjoyed my day. I don't know about you.
There's a handful of very powerful cards that are obviously broken in all hell. Does not mean it's easy to know what to do with them, right? With a zombie deck, I felt like it was very, very easy to get to 56, 57 of the right 60 cards in the main and half the right sideboard within the first hour of building a deck without playing any games. Because we've built zombie decks before. We've built weenie decks before. Mm-hmm. We know how this works. These decks were much more like we have instincts. And, I would have found Utopia Sprawl, Elves of Deep Shadow pretty quickly as sort of the other branch of the thing, because I always look for that sort of thing whenever I start a format. And the mana is really good, so you can afford to play all these colors. But then figuring out how to balance it, how to get Skullclamp to be good without being bad when Skullclamp doesn't show up is always a problem for Skullclamp decks. Knowing how to deal with other people's Skullclamps, how to navigate these games. And if we had another week, I thought the good zombie decks were very close to the best zombie builds that were possible. Mm-hmm. And there's a few things I was looking for, like having access to all the Persecutes to win the mirror from the zombie decks. But aside from Answers to Blood Baron, which didn't seem to actually be available to them, or no one found one, there weren't very many things that they needed to do to be the best zombie deck they could be. And similar with the Avzan decks that were responding to them, there was a lot of different cards you could choose from, but it was reasonably straightforward to get to pretty good places. And here we have it's pretty easy to get to the pool of cards that make sense to think about. But then you still have to choose. You can't have all of them. They don't all fit together. You need a certain number of creatures. You need a certain amount of other stuff. And there's a very delicate balance going on. For example, Mana Drain might not make your main deck, right? That's kind of stunning. You have people choosing, I want the Sunburst creatures, even though they don't work with Mana Drain. And I'm going to give up Mana Drain to do it, even though I'm blue.
Right.
And if anything, I think that the next evolution, if we ran this back, would be, how do I come back in these mirror matches? How do I win on the draw if they start playing their cards out faster? Right? Because these Sultai decks are very good. And therefore, what are the 1 and 2 casting costs and even 3 casting cost cards that answer the good creatures, right? Because the good creatures right now, there are very few answers. So Seal of Doom is the first place I'd look. But I'd also have to look back through all the cards. And I'd say, what solves these problems?
Yeah, that's some really interesting insight. Thanks for sharing that, Zvi. I will say that we don't have any more Magic to show you. And unfortunately, while we could listen to you all day, we do have to wrap this up. We do not have a confirmed date for our third installment of Set Roulette, but I can tell you that I read on great authority that it will be happening, and there should be an announcement at some point in the next week or so. So if you're a big fan of this format or a big fan of us, or a big fan of Magic, any of those combinations of things, stick through with Twitter, following the Mythic Society on Twitter, which is probably the Mythic Society. And also feel free to check out the mythicstore.com. That is actually where our players earn store credit to today. As a quick reminder, Benjamin Weitz earned himself $200 in Mythic store credit. Jarvis picked up 100, our third and fourth picked up 50, and our 5th through 8th picked up $25. So it's pretty cool. And of course, you doled out some fun bonus prizes along the way, Zvi. Any other parting words before we head out?
I love this experiment. Right now we've got a very monotonous situation in our formats, and this is the opposite of that. It's different every time, and I love it.
It's funny. I thought you just meant in our lives. I thought you meant, I do have a
also, I've been stuck at home, but there's so much to do, honestly. It's we're good. I've adjusted.
Yeah, this format has really taken off. I really enjoyed seeing people look forward to the Sunday they're going to announce the sets and all week building all those decks. So thanks for sticking with us throughout the afternoon and the evening. I hope you had a great time, and we'll see everybody next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.